Fame doesn't just create stars, it creates prisons. Behind the applause, the contracts, and the carefully staged smiles, many rock icons were never free to live as themselves. The industry demanded normalcy, obedience, and silence. Love became strategy. Marriage became camouflage. And private truth became a threat to profit. These were not fairy tale unions. They were arrangements. They were cover stories. They were survival tactics. Tonight, we uncover the rock icons forced into sham marriages, not for love, but to protect an image, calm the public, and keep the machine running. This is not about romance. This is about control. Elvis Presley manufactured love for the American dream. Love for the American dream. Elvis Presley was never just a musician. He was a product. A symbol carefully engineered to represent the perfect American man. Behind the screams and the sequins, powerful managers and record executives monitored every aspect of his image. As rumors about his personal life grew, so did the pressure to settle down. A wife wasn't love, it was damage control. Priscilla was young, malleable, and safe. The marriage projected stability, maturity, and heterosexual normalcy at a time when Elvis's private relationships and behavior were becoming difficult to contain. Insiders later described the union less as romance and more as obligation. Elvis was emotionally distant, isolated, and increasingly medicated. The marriage functioned as a public shield while his private life deteriorated. When the relationship collapsed, it revealed the truth. The wedding ring never saved Elvis. It only delayed the collapse. His marriage stands as one of the earliest and clearest examples of how the music industry weaponized intimacy to preserve profit and sacrificed personal truth to maintain a myth, too. Freddie Mercury, love rewritten for Survival Freddie, Mercury lived in a world that demanded silence. At the height of Queen's global dominance, openly acknowledging his sexuality could have destroyed everything. Executives didn't need to say the word marriage. The expectation was implied: appear normal, appear safe, appear straight. His relationship with Mary Austin became a cornerstone of this illusion. While deeply emotional and genuine in its own way, it also served as proof to the outside world that Freddie fit the acceptable mold. Industry figures quietly encouraged the narrative. Interviews were steered. Questions were deflected. The truth was postponed. Freddie's later insistence on privacy, especially regarding his death and burial, was not accidental. After a lifetime of being reshaped for consumption, secrecy became his final act of control. His story exposes how forced normalcy can become a prison, even for a voice powerful enough to shake stadiums. 3. John Lennon. Marriage under surveillance. John Lennon's personal life was never his own. From the moment the Beatles exploded into global consciousness, management dictated behavior, relationships, even emotions. Early marriages were expected, not celebrated, but required. Stability sold records. Chaos scared parents. Lennon's relationships existed under constant observation. Privacy was a luxury he never had. His marriage wasn't just emotional, it was political. Every move was analyzed, approved, or discouraged, depending on how it affected the brand. Ironically, Lennon later rejected the very institution that once protected him. His refusal to have a traditional grave mirrored his rejection of traditional ownership over his life. The marriage that once stabilized his image ultimately highlighted the cost of living under permanent surveillance. Or David Bowie, the illusion of balance. David Bowie terrified the industry because he refused definition. His gender fluidity, shifting personas, and open provocation unsettled executives who feared backlash. Marriage became the proposed antidote, a grounding force to neutralize confusion. While Bowie outwardly embraced relationships, insiders suggest pressure played a role. The industry wanted reassurance. Fans wanted clarity. Bowie offered neither completely but enough to survive. Unlike others, Bowie used marriage strategically, yet even his story shows how deeply the industry feared ambiguity. His genius wasn't just musical, it was knowing how to appear compliant while remaining untouchable. Prince. Privacy as rebellion. Prince was a problem the industry never fully understood. His sexuality, presentation, and refusal to explain himself unsettled executives who relied on clarity and labels to sell artists. He was neither openly defined nor safely ambiguous. He existed outside categories that terrified a system built on control. Marriage was repeatedly suggested as a solution, a way to ground him, to neutralize confusion, to reassure conservative audiences that nothing was truly out of bounds. Prince did marry, But those relationships never unfolded publicly in the way the industry expected. They were guarded, quiet, and emotionally distant by design. People close to him described a man deeply suspicious of intimacy shaped by obligation. For Prince, love was sacred, but expectation was poisoned. His marriages felt less like partnerships and more like fortified boundaries protecting his inner world from exploitation. Prince understood something. Most artists learn too late. Once the industry gains access to your private self, it never lets go. By keeping his emotional life sealed within marriage, he denied the machine its final conquest. His isolation wasn't emotional weakness. It was strategic defense. In an industry obsessed with ownership, privacy became his last form of rebellion. Kurt Cobain, domesticity as damage control by the early 1990s, Kurt Cobain had become a liability. He was outspoken, erratic, and openly hostile toward the very industry that profited from him. Executives feared that Nirvana's frontman symbolized instability rather than control. The solution was familiar. Normalize him. Marriage, fatherhood, and domestic imagery were aggressively encouraged, not as support, but as containment. Cobain's relationship with Courtney Love was genuine, chaotic, and emotionally intense, but it was also weaponized. Media narratives reframed him as a troubled genius, being saved by domestic life. The image of a family man softened his threat to mainstream audiences, temporarily easing corporate anxiety. Behind closed doors, that pressure became unbearable. The expectations of stability felt like a betrayal of everything Cobain stood for. He didn't want to be managed. He wanted to disappear. His death exposed a brutal truth. The life imposed on him Mick Jagger, romance, as strategy. Mick Jagger understood the machinery of fame better than most. From the beginning, the Rolling Stones' image required danger but controlled danger. Too much chaos scared advertisers. Too little rebellion bored audiences. Marriage entered the equation as a strategic counterweight, proof that Jagger could be wild without being uncontrollable. His marriages and long-term relationships often aligned neatly with career phases. Insiders describe them less as emotional commitments and more as calculated pauses, moments of stability deployed when the brand required reassurance. Love existed, but optics mattered more. Unlike many of his peers, Jagger survived by adapting rather than resisting. He gave the industry just enough compliance to remain free elsewhere. Yet his story still proves a sobering point. In rock culture, intimacy was rarely untouched by calculation. Even romance could become strategy. George Michael, refusing the script. George Michael faced relentless pressure to conform. As rumors intensified, marriage was proposed repeatedly as a solution, an easy way to quiet speculation and preserve marketability. The industry wanted a familiar narrative. Michael refused to provide it. That refusal came at enormous cost. His career momentum stalled. Media hostility intensified. He became isolated, punished not for scandal, but for honesty withheld on his own terms. The message was clear: comply and be protected, or resist and be erased. George Michael chose truth over comfort. He lost years of visibility, revenue, and support, but he kept his identity intact. His story reveals the industry's cruelty with rare clarity. It does not require artists to lie. It simply punishes those who won't. Little Richard, erased by design. Little Richard helped invent rock and roll, but his identity terrified the culture that consumed his music. His flamboyance, queerness, and refusal to conform were considered dangerous. Marriage was not suggested. It was imposed. Redemption narratives were crafted. His image was rewritten. The industry reframed him as saved, presenting marriage and religion as proof that the threat had been neutralized. Audiences were reassured. Profits continued. Authenticity vanished. What the world gained was comfort. What it lost was honesty. Little Richard's forced transformation stands as one of the earliest and most brutal examples of identity. Erasure in rock history, proof that the industry was willing to rewrite even its founders to preserve control. Liberace, living a lie for applause. Liberace's career depended entirely on denial. His private life was aggressively hidden, legally protected, and publicly rewritten. Marriage rumors were fabricated. Lawsuits silenced journalists. The industry demanded fantasy, and Liberace delivered it at the cost of himself. He lived in constant performance, never allowed to step outside the illusion. Applause replaced intimacy. Success replaced freedom. When the truth finally surfaced, it came too late to change the damage. Liberace's story is the most extreme version of forced illusion in music history. A life spent pretending not for art, but for survival. The machine kept running. The man disappeared inside it. These stories are uncomfortable because they expose a truth the industry never wanted discussed. The music world celebrates rebellion, but only when it's profitable. When artists step outside acceptable limits, the system responds with pressure, correction, and illusion. Marriage was never the goal. Compliance was. Some artists adapted, some resisted, some disappeared behind the roles they were forced to play, and a few paid with their mental health, their freedom, or their lives. What remains today are legends, but legends built on silence. The music lives forever. The truth often doesn't. If these stories made you question what you thought you knew about rock history, then the illusion is already cracking. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because in this industry, the greatest lie was never the song, it was the life built around it.